What is up, plant homies? I am out here or in here in my bedroom, and today we are going to be messing with Alocasias, specifically this mint fry deck I have in the back. It is too big for the pot that it's in, and there is a boatload of corms in that mofo. So I gotta collect those. Then I'll show you guys how I propagate the corms using the puddle method. I've been using it for a while now and I haven't had any losses, to be honest. So I think it works pretty good, especially when you have a whole bunch and you don't want to keep checking inside of the moss and everything. It's a super foolproof method into growing corms. So I'll show you that fry deck. Then I got to mix up some soil, and then I gotta get a pot that's bigger and find a spot I can put it at, and then we will get started. Also, I'm still looking for someone local to Southern California to share their garden or grow space. I just want to mix it up a little and show someone else's grow space and maybe get some tips on how they take care of their plants. Maybe it's a little bit different than mine, and I think that would be super awesome. I know it can be a little bit intimidating showing your grow space, but I promise if it's cluttered or anything looks weird, I'll edit the video and make it look however you want. Basically, I'll show you the video before I post it just to make sure you're cool with it and everything, and maybe I'll shoot you a cool cutting or give you a discount on some cool plants. But yeah, if you're willing to show your grow space, let me know. And now let's get into the Alocasias. So this is the bad boy we'll be repotting today. It is a mint fry deck. You can see the leaves come out super well. You can't really tell because there's no new leaves right now, but you can see this side is a little minty, and then this is like a normal side of what it's supposed to look like. They definitely fade down to more darker than when they come out. You can see the difference. This is a new leaf right here, and then this is one that's kind of faded down, so they come out like a nice Gatorade color almost, and it looks really cool when they start to get this super white veining. And yeah, they're one of my favorite plants. Not many people are interested in them when I post them for sale for some reason, but they are definitely my faves. Alright guys, so the first step is to make our soil. The first thing we're gonna need is a bucket, obviously, to mix the soil in. I like to use sand in my soil and a lot of pumice and perlite. This is the sand that you can use. It's just all-purpose Quikrete. It's like $4 for 50 pounds at Home Depot. Or you can use the play sand. I think the only difference is the play sand is like pre-washed. I use the all-purpose Quikrete because it's like half the price, and I go through a bunch of it, and it works pretty darn good. So the first thing we're going to do is add our sand. So I'm gonna put 2 scoops of sand. And basically I use 50% sand and pumice and perlite and 50% soil. I like to use the Pro Mix number 4 from Home Depot. It's just basically peat and a little bit of perlite, but you can use just straight peat if you like. And you can also use like 60 to 75% sand and perlite pumice mix. You don't have to use as much soil if you're a little bit worried about root rot or anything like that. I'll probably use a little more sand and perlite and pumice mix than soil just because I like to water a lot and I don't like to worry about getting root rot. But even with the half-half mix like I first mentioned, you can pretty much water as much as you want and not worry about root rot. With the sand and pumice and soil, you get with the sand and pumice and perlite, you get a lot of oxygen exchange in the soil, and you don't get as much like stagnant air in there that leads to root rot or anaerobic conditions. So we got the sand in there. Let's get our soil. This is the soil I like to use. It just says Pro Mix on it, or you can use the Sunshine Mix, but like I said, it's basically just peat and mixed with perlite. There's a little bit of sticks and stuff in there. But yeah, so we started with 2 scoops of sand. So we're gonna get 2 scoops out of here. There we go, 1 and 2. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Like you could see, the second scoop was a little bit big there, but that will be just fine. One other thing I forgot to mention that I do like to use is horticultural charcoal. You don't want to use like charcoal from the barbecue. You want to get specifically horticultural charcoal or charcoal that's meant to use as a soil amendment. This you only really have to use like 10% of, but I'll just go ahead and throw a whole scoop in there. This will help if there are like anaerobic conditions or anything bad in the soil. This will help to absorb that. And it also gives you a nice oxygen exchange and does a little bit of moisture retention as well. So adding this charcoal will help a lot. So let's put 1 scoop of that in there. There we go. And then last but not least, we will add the pumice and perlite mixture. I do like to rinse the pumice and the perlite before I add it in, just because it can come a little bit dusty. I think I have some upstairs that's already rinsed out, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab that so I don't have to rinse it. But yeah, you definitely want to rinse your pumice and your perlite because that stuff can come pretty dang dirty. Some people say to rinse the sand, but I've never done that. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that pumice and that perlite and throw it in there. It also doesn't really matter if it's chunky or not. I know a lot of people like to use the big size perlite or whatever, but I use just like your standard one that comes from the garden store. So I got my pumice and perlite mix. All right, so there we go. There's a little bit better view of the pumice and the perlite. You can see the pumice is in a little bit chunkier and the perlite's just like your standard garden mix. So there's 1 scoop and there's 2 scoops. And I'll just add a little bit more because I like it a little bit more. So basically we have 2 scoops of sand, 2 scoops of pumice and perlite, and then 2 scoops of the Soil Pro mix. So basically it's actually like 30% soil and 60% pumice and sand mix. Like I said, I like to do it a little bit less soil because I like to water pretty much every day or every other day. But if you water like once a week or 2 times a week, then you can go with half soil and half perlite pumice sand. So you could do 1 scoop sand and 1 scoop pumice perlite, and then 2 scoops soil and 1 scoop charcoal. And that could be like your starting point for your mix. That mix also works for like fruit trees or garden trees or just regular garden soil. Pretty much anything you like to plant in pots, you can use that. But for alocasias and plants in my room, I do like to use the 30-60 mix, so 30% soil and 60% pumice and perlite plus the 1 scoop of charcoal, just because I like to water so dang much. So now we're gonna mix it up and then we should have enough to pot our alocasia in. All right, let's check out that soil mix now that it's all mixed up. I think you can see there, it is a pretty sandy mix. You can definitely see the soil in there, but you can see a lot of sand and a lot of that pumice and perlite. There's a little bit of charcoal in there. So yeah, that's about the consistency that I use. And like I said, you can use a little bit more soil if you like, but this is the consistency that I like to use when I water a ton. All right, going back upstairs. It's so funny, you know, like I don't know what it is, but some species of plants I refer to as her and some I refer to as him. Like most of my monsteras I call them him, and most of my alocasias and like Hoyas I call her. I don't know what it is. It's just like a natural way I describe them. But if you guys do that, let me know down in the comments. Or maybe I'm just crazy. Who knows? A lot of people say I'm crazy, but that's just the way my brain works. You know what I'm saying? Also check out the variegated orchid collection. I did a video a while back on how to grow them in jars with no media. So if you're interested in that, check them out. Check the old video out. But yeah, now they're all flowering. Just to prove it to you guys that this air culturing of orchids works just amazing. Alrighty, plant folks, we got everything we're gonna need here. I also had to make up a little self-watering pot because I forgot there is a little baby attached to this bad boy. Not only can alocasias make corms, they can also do little offshoots, and sometimes they come right off the stem. Sometimes they come like right out of the dirt, but it's pretty much attached to the stem below the dirt. And you can see there's a new leaf coming out. You can wait for that to come out all the way before you do this, but in my experience, it hasn't really made a difference. Alocasias are a lot tougher than people realize. One thing I haven't done with alocasias is had them make flowers. So if you know how to make a flower, let me know. I've left them super root bound and I've done everything I can to get them to flower, but I can't seem to get a dang flower. I want to mix my fried eggs and try and make like a tricolor or something cool. But yeah, let's get into it. So first thing we're going to do is get this bad boy out of the pot. It is pretty root bound. I'm not gonna say there's like 20 corms, but there might be. I can see like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 just on the top, and I've given away like 4, and I think I can see a bunch inside the pot. So we might get like 30 or 30 plus corms out of here. I'm not sure exactly how many, but so first thing we're gonna do is get most of this sand off of here, and then we'll kind of come back and show you what it looks like with all the corms and everything sticking out. I might actually have to bring this outside just because it's a little bit root bound, and I kind of want to get it nice and clean so you can see all the corms hanging onto it, and then we can get them off. Yeah, there is so many corms, guys. There's probably close to 40 on here. But yeah, let me try and work some of the soil out of here, and then we'll see where we get if we do need to take it outside and spray it off with the hose. That's probably gonna be my best bet, so I might just go do that. But let's see where we get here. All right, guys, so this is really compacted. It's super root bound and there's a bunch of corms. So I'm actually gonna bring it outside and spray it down and get the roots nice and clean. It's a lot easier to use the hose on a high pressure setting. I know I've mentioned this in a lot of my videos before, but it actually works a lot better than digging the soil out with your hands. When you do it with your hands, it kind of breaks the roots off a lot, but when you use the hose, they actually stay together quite nice. The only thing it takes out is the dead roots. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring this outside and spray it down, and we'll get right back to it. This is the result of using the high pressure setting on the hose. Roots are super clean. I got out as much soil as I could, but there's still a little bit in there. You can see how many dang corms are on this bad boy. This is probably my biggest corm harvest ever. Not gonna sit here and lie to you guys, but yeah, let's get it cleaned up and get these corms off. By the way, corms are these little balls that are attached to the roots. It's basically like the seeds of an alocasia. This is what grows into the baby plants. If you didn't know, all those little balls are basically the seeds from an alocasia. But yeah, I already got 2 corms out of there when I was washing it off and just taking off the soil. So basically, when you're removing the corms, you can just give them a little twist and sometimes they'll come off. If they don't come off, then you can go ahead and grab your scissors. Trying to find one that comes off easy for an example here, but of course all these are sticking on pretty good. Oh, there we go. One popped off without even using the scissors. But yeah, sometimes they're on there pretty darn good, so you have to get your scissors out. And some of these are corms attached to corms, which can be a little crazy. I'll show you guys one of those at the end. But yeah, I'm gonna go through here and cut all these corms out and show you the harvest. But let's see how many we get. All right, so we got pretty much all the corms out. We'll go ahead and count those, and then we'll take the baby plant out of there, pot that up. Then I'll show you the corms, and then we'll get to potting the mother plant. Sometimes you'll get corms that already have roots, kind of like this one. I don't know how easy it is to see from that angle, but I can give you guys a close-up in a second. And that is just dandy. You can go ahead and plant these guys up and they will grow pretty fast. These ones with roots already, I like to put them straight into moss or into soil. I don't really like to put them into the puddle method. So we did get a couple with roots. Well, actually we got a lot with roots. But then you'll also get some that are like this and they have like a little stem on them, like the ones that pull out easily. So those I usually go ahead and chop it back to like 1/4 or 1/2 of an inch, just because I don't like a big long stem. But yeah, so far we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in my hand, 6, 7, 49, 50, 51, and then another double one. So I think that's 52, but if you count the double ones, that's 54. Let me give you a little close-up of a double one and one with roots, and then I'll show you one that has a little stem. But yeah, 51 to 54 is definitely the biggest harvest I've ever got. You guys saw the pot that it was in. It was in like a 6-inch by 6-inch round pot, so not that big. I don't even know what I'm gonna do with all these corms. I'm gonna have to put 2 or 3 in a pot and go from there, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, here is a close-up of one that already has roots. Here is that double one. You can see there's 2 corms connected to each other. Pretty cool. And then here's one with the stem I was talking about. You can see down here is a little bit of a stem. I usually just cut that to like a 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch. Just makes them easier to pot. Alright, and here's what I was talking about with the baby. You can see over here, there's already a baby growing on there. So we're gonna detach this. You just basically dig through in there and cut it off, and it will be ready to plant up on its own right from the get-go. So basically with these little babies, what I like to do is kind of just give them a little tug. Sometimes they come off. You can just pry them off easily. Looks like this one is going to be just able to do that. So you can see I kind of just pried it out of there. Then you just give them a little bit of a slap and tickle, you know what I'm saying, to get it out of the root ball. Kind of just have to mess with it a little bit and pull on the roots, which can be a little nerve-wracking, but trust me, like I said, Alocasia are a little bit hardier than most people think. This one has a giant taproot, so we're gonna go ahead, follow that down, and kind of just tease the roots out of the main root ball as best we can without breaking them. But yeah, you just take this nice and slow, and it's fairly simple. Sometimes you get a bunch of these little babies attached, and sometimes you'll only get 1 or 2 or none. I don't know how to make them come out, but I know if you get keki paste or kiki paste or whatever, and you rub them on the little nodes on the stalk of the Alocasia, sometimes that can trigger little babies to pop out, but we will save that for another video. I think this one already has its own little corm attached to the bottom, which is pretty cool. So we'll go ahead and cut that off just because I want it to fit into the pot. But yeah, there's a little fully rooted corm already right there. But yeah, for these little babies, I like to put them into a self-watering pot, and that's what I have made up right here. I'm just gonna run to the bathroom, rinse the roots off, and then we'll get that potted up. I also like to remove the bottom leaves, to be honest, when I'm repotting Alocasias. It just seems to help the mother plant recover a little bit easier because it has less to support. So I usually take off the leaves until there's like 2 or 3 leaves left just at the top, kind of like how it is now. So you can see the newest leaf is a nice bright green and the other 2 are a little bit darker. That's how they'll fade down. But when they come out, they look amazing. And I could imagine if you have 2 or 3 of these in a pot and you get 2 or 3 leaves like that at a time, it looks pretty awesome. So for my self-watering setups, this is basically it. Just have a little cup to hold the water, and then you put a pot or another cup inside that, and then you plant inside of this pot so the media is not touching the water. But I use these humidifier filter sticks that you can see right there. Yeah, so these humidifier filter sticks I use instead of the cotton rope, just because it's a little bit cleaner and the roots don't get super gnarly stuck in there. But yeah, I put them about like a little less than halfway up inside the pot. I know it's hard to see because the pot's opaque, but I guess you can kind of see there. And then you just add the media on top of that and fill the cup up with water. We can do another little video on that if you guys want to see. Just comment down below and I'll show you how you do it. All right, so yeah, for the old self-watering setup, I just use a little perlite pumice mix. I like to use the smaller size perlite and pumice for this just because it's a smaller size plant. So what I'll do is add a little bit to the bottom there. I'll get my planter down in there, and then we will fill it back up with media. Super simple. Get a little bit in there so it stables out. It doesn't fall over, however you want to say that. Sometimes when I'm making these videos, I just am not thinking and I make up my own words and phrases. Stables out. I don't even know if that's a thing. Let me know down below. So basically, we'll just add perlite and pumice around this bad boy. And I do like to put the stem a little bit in there just because new roots will come out of the base. And I don't want to have to repot it right away. I won't bury the stem, but I'll definitely put it down in there a little bit. Give it a little slap and tickle, just like normal. Make sure the roots get covered with whatever media you choose. Some people do this with regular soil. I do like to use perlite and pumice just because it's nice and airy and it does retain moisture. But yeah, then I just straighten out the plant, give it a little tap, and you are good to go. And then I will give it some fertilizer water. I like to give it usually half distilled water or RO water, whichever you use, and then half of the fertilizer water, and that's how I started off. Also, I'm gonna rinse it out under tap water and then rinse it with RO water after, just to get any remaining dust that's in there out. So yeah, I'm gonna go do that and then we'll get right back to it. All right, and there we go. The final product, you can see for yourself. We got a little water in the bottom. We got it potted up nice and clean. It's a little crooked and I'm kind of OCD, so it's a little bit annoying. But hopefully when it starts to grow in, I can push on it a little bit and it'll straighten out. But anyways, that's just me. It looks super amazing. Next thing before we mess around with the corms is we are going to plant the mother plant back. First thing, I chopped a bunch of leaves because I was running out of space. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean that up as best I can and pull out these old leaf petioles or whatever they're called. Take off all the dead stuff, and then we will put it in the pot. One thing I do like to do, I can talk about while I'm doing this really quick, is I do like to put about a ½ inch or an inch of lava rock at the bottom of my pots with soil, just to improve the air circulation. I don't have lava rock right now though, so I'm just gonna use my perlite and pumice mix. It's basically the same damn thing. But you can see we have a nice clean root ball. We have 2 nice clean leaves at the top. This is our nice new clean pot. Believe it or not, it's super hot at my house. I'm actually super sweaty. I'm in Southern California. I know a lot of the rest of the country, it's super cold and everyone is freezing their butts off. But over here in SoCal, it is still pretty warm. So like I said, I'm gonna put about, maybe not a ½ inch on this because I don't have my lava rock, but I'm gonna put about a ¼ inch of the perlite pumice mix, as you can see there. And then we're gonna go ahead and add a scoop of dirt. The perlite and pumice mix, or lava rock at the bottom, also helps retain the soil a little bit, so not all of it just falls right out the bottom. But yeah, we'll get a little bit of that in there. Measure the plant. We might have put a little bit too much soil, so we'll go ahead and take some out, and that is better. I wanted to cover this stem of it a little bit because it was growing out of the soil, and I want it a little bit below the soil level so it can grow some new roots in there and get even bigger, my friends. These fried eggs can get pretty nice size, and I want to grow mine super big. I like to slap it a little bit, get the roots in contact with soil all the way around, and then give it a little bit of a tappy tap, and then repeat that process until it's fully planted. All right, there we go. So you never want to go compact it down and smush it down with your fingers like a brick, but giving it some slaps on the side and tapping it like that will just ensure that all the roots have contact with soil. You don't want big air pockets in there. That could lead to some anaerobic activity and lead to some rot. But with this soil mix, with all the perlite and pumice and sand, even if you do get some big holes in there that are just air, you probably won't really run into problems, just because the oxygen exchange is so much greater than if you just used plain old garden soil. Let's get a little close up, and then I'm going to wash off all these corms, get them potted up, and then I will show you how we do the puddle method. I just want to get all these done because my phone is about to die, so I'm going to charge it a little bit because that's what I film with. And then on my last one, I'll show you how we peel the skin off and then put them in a cup with water and get them started. So yeah, bada bing, bada boom. Got it planted up, got the corms harvested, got a little baby for sale. It's not even that much of a baby. The leaves are probably already 5-6 inches, so that'll be cool for somebody. All right, so here is a close-up of this bad boy planted up in the new soil. This is the first leaf I've got like this that has like a little bit of a normal side. Usually they're fully mint like this one, but like I said, this is how they come out. They come out with this color on the left and then change to that color on the right. This one, the new leaf was this one, so you can see it's lighter on the right side and the normal. Lighter on the left and normal on the right. So you can see the stem here. I planted it a little bit deeper in the soil. It had about 2 or 3 inches of stem that was growing out of the soil, and putting it a little bit deeper will get some new roots to pop out and everything. So yeah, there she is in all her glory, looking perfect. So we'll go ahead and give it some water, find a place for it on the shelf, and bada bing, bada boom, it will be all done. There's our little corm pile. As you can see, some of them have roots already, like this guy and like this guy. I showed earlier, but I didn't know how in focus it was, so I'll show it one more time. And then we had some double corms in there. So here's one of those double corms. There's a corm with another corm growing off the side of it. But yeah, let's get into it. I'm gonna put all these in their own little plastic cups, and then I'll show you how to do it yourself. All right, so here's the ones I did so far. I think there is 21. So we got 5, 10, 15, 20, and then the one for 21. So I'm gonna peel 4 more, and that'll be 25. And then I'm gonna do 25 not peeled, and then we'll see which ones grow faster and if it makes a difference. I have not peeled them before and they've grown, but I did notice it could take them a little longer, but that could have just been coincidence, so I'm not sure. But this will be a good test. 25 of each. I think we'll get a good idea which one works better. The end result won't be in this video, but if you watch the next few videos to come, I will give you an update for sure. All right, guys, so this is how you peel a corm. You can see it has this nice brown skin on it, and we're just gonna wanna peel that off. I feel like the grandma from Happy Gilmore right now, because after doing like 20 plus of these corms, this brown stuff just gets under the nail and just keeps pushing in, and then it like starts to feel like needles are under my freaking nails. So I'm just gonna do 3 or 4 more of these, and half of them will be peeled, and then the other half I'm gonna leave unpeeled. That will be a good test to see if peeling them really makes a difference. I talked to my friend, and she does more alocasia than me, and she said she doesn't always peel them. So 50 corms will be a good test. You can see you just kind of peel it like it's a hard-boiled egg pretty much. And this little outer shell can get pretty hard if it's under the soil for a long time. It's kind of hard to do behind the camera, but you can pretty much see what I'm doing here. Just removing that brown skin. And sometimes it'll be green, but you just basically want to peel away the hard outer shell. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll show you guys how to start it off in the puddle method. Alright, so there is the corm all peeled up. You can even remove this like yellowish skin at the top if you want, but
I'm just getting tired of peeling corms, to be honest with you. But basically, this is the point. If you're not going to use the puddle method and you're going to put it into moss, this part is the part you want facing up, the pointy part. You can tell I took the old stem off the bottom there, and usually that will be like flat at the bottom, and that's the part you want facing down. So if this were the soil right here, you'd want it planted like this, just below the surface. You can even plant it with just the very tip poking out and then cover it with a cup so it's nice and humid. But I like using the puddle method. It's super duper easy, and when you have a bunch of corms like this, it's kind of foolproof. So you just check them out every couple days and see when you see some roots and a leaf poking out, and then you know it's ready to transfer to your self-watering setup or to some moss. I like transferring them to moss, and then when they get a little bit bigger, probably like the third or fourth leaf, I like to put them into self-watering setup. Basically all you do is get your little deli cup with water in it and you put it in there. And the part that you want facing up, so the tip, I like to keep that part out of the water. So I cover the corm in like a third water and then leave the very tip poking out. So I could put a little bit more water in there, and I'll give you a better side angle view of this. So when everything's said and done, this is exactly how you want it to look. Just a little water in there, probably covering a third of the corm, and then you can see right there is the top of the corm, and you just want that sticking out of the water a little bit. If it goes underwater a tiny bit, sometimes if you have like super duper small corms, it's kind of hard to put enough water in there and still keep the tip out of it. And that's okay if there's a little water touching it, but I like to do it like this. When I've done it like this, I've had zero problems. And then basically you get a little cap with a little hole in it like this, and you slap it on, and then you set it and forget it. So I'll put this over with the rest of them and show you what that looks like. All right, so here's 22 of them set up and ready. And like I said, I like to do this method because it's nice and easy. I can just leave these here and check them every couple days. The only thing you want to watch out for is that you don't let them run out of water. You don't really have a problem with that until they start to get a lot of roots. Then you got to make sure the water doesn't dry up. But even if there's like the tiniest bit of water in there, they'll still be a-okay. So you don't have to worry too much about that. But yeah, just make sure they don't run out of water. But I think that's pretty self-explanatory. And then here is one that in the, I think it was the last video or 2 videos ago, the Monstera White Lava unboxing is a corm that I unpackaged from that. And that was about 2.5 weeks ago. And now you can see it has a bunch of roots and it has a new leaf popping out. So I can go ahead and plant them up into moss at this stage. But sometimes I honestly just wait till the leaf hits the top of the or the bottom of the lid, or wait till there's actually like a full open leaf in there and then I'll transfer it over. But yeah, that's basically the next step. And then when you transfer it into moss, you want to put it into a moss cup and then put like a cap over the cup so it stays humid. So yeah, take it from this stage to moss with a little cap over it, and then when it gets like 2 leaves or 3 leaves, you can take the cap off and it will be bueno, ready to roll. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and peel the last 3 corms, and then I'm gonna put the corms that I don't peel in water, put them down there with the rest of them, and we will be finished. Here's a little better view of the baby that I set up in a little self-watering container. So after the moss, once it's about this size, maybe a little smaller, then I'll set it up in a container just like this. There's the humidifier sticks, little pumice and perlite setup, and the baby. Brand new little setup. And then the corms are down there to that stage, to moss, to that stage, all the way up until it's an adult, just like this bad boy. All right, guys, it is the next day. Everything is finished. My fingers are killing me, like I mentioned yesterday. But I wanted to give you one more quick tip. When you put the corms in water, make sure you're using reverse osmosis water or distilled water. You want to stay away from tap water because you don't know what chemicals are in there. And it could be just fine. A lot of people I know use tap water, but might as well go the safe route and just use RO or distilled water. It's always going to be clean
and it's always going to work just right. And when you see some little roots popping out or a leaf popping out, you can put a little bit of diluted fertilizer in the water. I wouldn't go full strength, but just use like a seedling strength. If your fertilizer doesn't have instructions on how much fertilizer to put in the water, if it only has like one dose, like it says like 2 drops per gallon or whatever, just cut it in half or a quarter. I think half is fine, but if you're a little bit nervous, you can cut it in a quarter. So if it says 2 drops, just put 1 drop, and you should be good to go. But yeah, I moved that silver blue corm that I showed you guys earlier in the video into the next setup. So I'll show you that. I'll show you all the corms that I transferred yesterday, and we will wrap up the video. All right, so this is the silver blue batwing corm. You can see I potted it up in some moss, and then I just put a cup over top. It's also important that you label your corms and everything. Then you can gather some data, see how long it took to turn into a full plant from a corm. So like if it's a month from now and it still looks the same, then you know something's wrong. You got to check the roots or whatever. And also you can keep the data just to see how long corms usually take, so you can always check for problems and whatnot. Anyways, I don't even know if that makes sense, but just make sure you label your stuff so you can gather some info. Here is the mother plant fry deck from yesterday that we transferred over to this pot. You can see it is still thriving and everything is good. So fingers crossed, the transfer went just fine, and it should grow even bigger than before. You can see the regular elbow fry deck next to it. That one is due up for a repot. Look at that stem coming out of the soil. I need to clean that bad boy, bad girl up. But yeah, looks nice next to the old mint fry deck. And there is the Aurea fry deck. Gotta get that bigger so we can put it next to those two and get the fry deck family going together. But yeah, let's check out the old corms from yesterday. So these are all the corms I transferred. They all got their own little cup, nice and easy. You can see there's just a little bit of water in there with each one. I also threw some in my lizard cage to see what would happen. I buried a couple and then I just put a couple on top of the surface. But yeah, so there's all the corms that we transferred from the fry deck I just showed. So that is how you collect corms from an Alocasia and plant them up using the Puddle method. And I've showed you the next couple steps, from the corm to the corm rooting to potting it up in moss to putting it in the self-watering setup. Here is also the baby offset that we took from the mother plant yesterday. So you can see after a day it is doing just fine. So this is all the steps you take from collecting the corms to putting the corms in the Puddle method to putting the corm into moss after it starts getting its leaf and its first roots, and then planting it up to a self-watering pot, and then eventually it will get big like this mama up there. So those are all the steps you take from collecting the corm from an Alocasia all the way to potting it up to the biggest size. And obviously you can go bigger and bigger and bigger from there. And I think this year we'll plant some outside in the spring and see what happens. But yeah, I hope you liked this video. I hope it was very informative, and we will do more videos on Alocasias to come. If you have any ideas or any questions or anything, or any videos you want to see, comment down below and let me know. I'm not getting that many comments, but I've been getting a little bit more views. But the comments just help, because then I know what kind of videos people are looking for. But for now, I'll stick with doing my daily chores and just sharing some tips with you guys, because that's fun for me and I hope it's informative for you. Also, if you have a garden you want to share, hit me up in the comments below. You got to be in Southern California though. I'm not sure if you live in like a different state or whatever, how we can make a video. But if you've done that before, I guess you can comment down below too. Message me on Instagram and let me know what is up. But yeah, I'd love to visit some other gardens and take some videos and get some tips from some other people. So if you are into doing that, let us know down in the comments below. Anyways, plant homies, I hope you like this video, and peace out for now.